Well, it's been a minute, hasn't it? I want to apologize if you find my eyes darting around the video. I am using a teleprompter on my screen, so I do not rant and rave about the same point repeatedly. I still consider myself new to the online TTRPG subculture, even though I have been a dungeon master since 2004. But I am all for there being a subculture, and I also want to put myself within that culture and make some pointers that I think others could benefit from. There is one thing that has stood out to me over the last couple of years that I wish to raise awareness to, and that is the whole 5 things you must absolutely avoid as a new dungeon master. I understand and respect the fact that online creators want traffic to hit their channels, and that is why they use such clickbait-esque titles. But I find them to do more harm than good. So, my one tip for you, the player who wants to try out being a dungeon master, is not to listen to any of these lists. Avoid watching them. Go with your gut feeling and run the campaign that you and your players want. The rules or tips these other dungeon masters set up do not correlate at all to what it is to actually be a dungeon master and run their own game, i.e. your own game. I do also believe that these rules only highlight insecurities for new players, setting the bar way too high for them and making being a dungeon master not fun and more terrifying. The way a dungeon master sees the game is not the same way a player sees the game. As a dungeon master, you might want heavily detailed maps, because you are worried that you might disturb your player's concentration because of some invisible bar you set for yourself. But you do not have to do that. The way you portray the story is just as good as it's going to get for the players. You do not need to commission some digital artist to create a heavily detailed map, heavily detailed dungeon for you and your players. You can just use, for example, Microsoft Paint and add a grid to it, and that will suffice for a map for you and your player. For you and your player's imagination can run rampant. Every dungeon master has a different playstyle to how they portray their games, their world, and their characters. This makes the whole top 10 things you must do as a dungeon master lists more dangerous than good. Some dungeon masters need to do zero preparation for their games in order to run them. Others might want to study extensively for hours or days before they run their session. There is actually no proper way of doing these things. There is only your way. If a game system says you need to happily give out, for example, magic items, you do not have to do that at all. It is your world after all. You can do exactly as you please. Just randomly handing out magical items might make the whole idea of a magical item lose the special feeling of claiming this ancient, powerful relic. You do not have to worry about going into detail, explaining how the human fighter with auburn, mid-waist hair, and emerald green eyes hit a jugular on the kobold she is fighting with her sword. You do not have to go into detail on how the blood gushes out and how the life slowly ebbs away from the kobold, its eyes going blank. You don't have to do that. The players will do that on their own, with their imagination. You could do it, but it is certainly not a must. My one tip for any new dungeon master, or any current dungeon master, is to remove your own limitations. Do not let some other person's limitation of what a good dungeon master is, or what a dungeon master should do, dictate how you should run your games. Just have fun. That is what TTRPGs are about. I promise you, as long as your players are having fun, you are going to have fun. And that is it for me. Stay safe, everybody. This was a short video, but hey, here I am.